Hello, I'm Joe Fury, and I just want to reach out to the viewers of Lunch Therapy to say thank you for starting a cult centered around me.
Wait a minute. Excuse me.
Boney, this is a one-shot.
This is Joel Marshall Show. Lunch Therapy. Lunch Therapy.
Okay, fine.
That's whose show it is.
Yes, but the cult is mine. The cult is mine.
Is it? I
Yes.
thought the cult of the hummingbird was started by Ganil.
Come on now.
Ganil.
Ganil started it, but Joe Fury is the guru. I mean,
it's
how Joel Marshall can't be the guru, right? I mean, that would be ridiculous. What could he guru about? Thank you very much,
It's
Boney.
Joel's show.
Okay, Boney.
This is Joel's show.
Thank you, Boney. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Lunch Therapy.
This is Lunch Therapy.
Welcome to the cult.
Woo-hoo!
Okay.
You're not in the club.
Okay, Bob.
You're not in it.
Bye, Boney.
You're not in the cult.
Okay, careful now, Boney. It's getting a little bit rambunctious. All right. It's Lunch Therapy. It's the middle of the week. Lunch Therapy is a place where we decompress from what's going on in the world and just let it all go. I think that Joe Fury is maybe using a little too much crepe erase. I think he might need a crepe erase intervention. I don't know if they have CAA, crepe erase, or CEA, CEA, crepe erase anonymous. I think we gotta maybe get him in there because his face is starting to disappear completely. So here we are. We're here. We're chilling out. We're gonna breathe. We do 3 breaths at the beginning of the show, in through the nose and out through the toes. First one is here. Hold it. And let it out. There is no argument that breathing helps your system. It helps calm down your nervous system. It helps you get oxygen into your body. And a lot of us forget to breathe. So we're going to take in another breath. It's good to see all you people here. A lot of Twitchers out there. And we're going to let go. For those of you that haven't seen the show before, I am an actor and a comedian in Hollywood. My name is Joel Marshall. This is the Aurora Borealis behind us. That is in Iceland or someplace. I'm not sure where that is. But we're going to take one more breath, one more deep breath. And we're going to hold it. And we're going to let it out. Yeah, so I feel calmer now. We're going to move into the topic today is what is it like to be an actor in Hollywood? A lot of you probably wonder this. A lot of you that aren't actors in Hollywood. Like, why would anybody do that? Or what can I do to do that myself? A lot of people are just starting out, or maybe you want to change your career. You know, a lot of people became actors late in life. Charles Durning, lots of people. He comes to mind. So what is it about being an actor? People come to Hollywood, they don't realize that a lot of it is a psychological game. It's a psychological game. It's actually a test. I am grateful for all the time that I've spent being an actor because I feel like it's made me a lot stronger person. And the reason that is because you have to get your mind right like you're an athlete. Because that's what it's like to be an actor. And because there are so many psychological things coming in on you when you make this decision. I made the decision when I was I made the real decision when I was 3 years old. A friend of mine came up to me in my neighborhood and said, Joel, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be an actor. And I lived in Edmonds, Washington. I didn't know any actors. I just really decided that's what I wanted to do. Sometimes they say, you know, people who play the cello say, you know, I didn't choose the cello chose me. Cello chooses you. And I feel that way about acting as well, that it chooses you. And it's not something that I've ever thought, well, maybe I shouldn't do this, even though there's been a lot of adversity and there's been a lot of, I guess I call it rejection fatigue. I've had a lot of rejection fatigue in my life, and you have to figure out how to overcome that, because this is a super competitive, or it can be a very competitive field. Even if you're at the top, even if you're the top actor in the world, it can be super, super difficult. Yeah, and a lot of people go into the acting for the weed and the chicks. It's true, Jay Gaffney. And they get a little bit of a surprise because it's actually kind of difficult. A lot of actors say, you know, a lot of famous actors, Michael Caine comes to mind. He said he became an actor because he was like in college and there was a class that had all women in it. And he was like, this is the class for me. So he started taking the class, not even knowing it was an acting class, and he became this famous actor. Sometimes I think that's a story. I know Gary Sinise, I was talking to him one time, and he apparently became an actor. Rejection fatigue sounds like my dating life. Yeah, some people know about rejection fatigue. And so, yeah, so we have to get our head right with that, right? But Gary Sinise said that he became an actor because he was having such a difficult time in school, focusing on what he was doing, and somebody put him in an acting class, and he just all of a sudden was like, oh, this is where I should be. Probably that should have happened to Jay Gaffney and Greg Werdala as well. But then, so you make that decision. I made the decision really to major in drama when I was in college, which was a weird time because I was in a fraternity and nobody there was acting that I know of. And my roommate, who's now a lawyer, my roommate in college, Ganell, wanted to be an attorney. And but he had done more plays than I had. I hadn't done. I mean, I was in Santa Claus and The Witch when I was a kid, but that was about it. And so I don't know who I thought I was, majoring in acting and becoming an actor. I'm sure my parents were disappointed. My parents were always like, Joel, you can be whatever you want to be. Just whatever you want to be, as long as you work hard at it and try and be the best you can be. So I said, I just decided to be an actor. And they were like, well, not that. not that. Except that. And it was weird because I think my parents wanted me to be a lawyer. But they didn't know any lawyers, and they were not lawyers. And it's not like we sat around the dinner table talking about law. Most of the time we talked about art or politics or things like that. We didn't. Why would I aspire to be a lawyer? I have no idea. But I kind of was like, okay, so I was trying to get my head in that mind frame. But I think mainly parents, they're just worried about your safety. You come out, they have no idea. They don't have any manual how to take care of you. They're like, what am I doing? My mom was reading Dr. Spock or whatever, and Dr. Spock was not the doctor from the Enterprise. He was actually a guy who wrote books on how to raise kids, because our parents were like, what the hell? What am I going to do with this kid? But I better protect him. So they're always like protecting you, and they're thinking, well, what can I get him to do that would make him be successful? Must keep larva alive. Exactly. Must keep larva alive. A lot of you are parents out there. You probably have that instinct. You got to keep them alive. Got to get them. Can't let them be like a rock star like Matt Wright. You can't let them be, can't let them be an actor or a comedian. God forbid. Being a comedian, and the guy, then they'll just be putting themselves out there where they can be hurt. They'll be talking about their personal information. That's the first kid. And after that, you're like, well, I think dirt probably is good for their immune system. I was the second kid. Maybe that's why I felt so brave. Because my brother Dave, he had to go through all the tough stuff, and I was just kind of in the wake, or I was drafting behind him like in cycling. Second kid is our experiment in non-attachment parenting. You're so tired by then. You're just like, oh, forget it. So I think it's a good idea, though. I mean, as actors, it becomes sort of like you have to be like your own therapist, because you're like, what is going on? And for me, I had a lot of, I don't know, I guess what they call imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is when you're like, yeah, I'm not really an actor. What am I doing? I grew up in Edmonds, Washington. I think we're all a little disappointed, Joel. Exactly. We're all, I'm like, gotta make this work because everybody's counting on me at home. Dr. Lipschitz from the Rugrats. Maybe after David, they were hoping for a successful child. I think David is the successful. My brother, yeah, he's my idol. He's an incredible guy. I don't know how he made it with the same upbringing that I had. No, my parents are great. Nothing against my parents. I just want to live with my parents. I have imposter syndrome. So yeah, we all have a little bit of that. I think we can understand. And when you decide to be an actor, so the day I declared the acting major, hey Richard, 567-876, good to see you. What's up? When I decided to become an actor, I remember I sat down in the TV room in our fraternity and I was watching some MTV probably, because that's what we watched back then. And this guy comes in and I said, hey, and he's like, how's it going? I said, well, I just declared my major. I'm going to be a drama major. And he looked at me like so skeptical. And I don't even know who this was. It wasn't any of you, I don't think. But he looked at me so skeptically and he said, well, I don't see it. I don't think you're an actor. And I was like, what? And then he left. And for like a half an hour, I was going through this like, maybe he's right. I don't know. What am I doing? I'm the craziest person in the world. This is the craziest thing. What's wrong with me? And why some random guy who I don't even know who it is now put that in my head. And it kind of stuck. Like every once in a while I'd be sitting in an audition later on in life, and that would come into my head like, I don't think you're an actor. It was weird because he came back about a half an hour later and he sat down. He goes, I've been thinking about it, and I think maybe you could be like one of those guys that you see all the time, but you don't know their name. You could maybe be one of those actors. What is it? A character actor? You could be maybe a character actor. So that like stuck in my head because I didn't know. And I don't think it was Jay Gaffney, Greg Tryon. I think it was Greg Tryon. No, it was actually somebody that I looked up to. I think it was, I don't know, maybe our Rush chairman. I think it says a lot that you can't remember who he is now. It probably does. Yeah. So let's see, Greg Tryon. Yeah, Greg Tryon was a guy in our fraternity who like showed up once and then disappeared. He was like, this is not for me. And so anyway, this person who I could not remember said this thing and it stuck in my head. I mean, I remember it today. And so sometimes you have to be aware of that. I had that in my head for years and didn't even realize it was in my head. But these are the little things that when you become, when you're in a very competitive field, you have to kind of eliminate that because it's doubt. And some people mistakenly think that in order to be an actor, you have to have a huge ego. And that's a mistake to believe that. And some people, as actors, actually try and cultivate a huge ego so that they can go into an audition and they don't have that doubt, essentially. They don't have that doubt because they so believe in themselves, or to the point of narcissism where they just think they're never wrong. And that is actually a terrible way to be, because when you get the job and you're this person who has this giant ego people don't want to work with you after a while. I'm not saying Jared Leto either. I'm not talking about Jared. Jared is a fine human being. That voice was already in your head. The guy was just there to say it out loud. It might have been, but there was probably an earlier one where maybe I proved to myself that I was unworthy, or maybe somebody just said it. I remember then I had this acting class. So then I had this Shakespeare class. I had no idea what I was doing, and everybody's doing iambic pentameter and all, in Shakespeare, it's got a certain rhythm to it, and they're actually graphing it out on the board, like what the rhythm is to each one of the quadrants or whatever they're called. And I was like, I am so in over my head here. What have I done? And luckily, somebody slipped me a book and said, here, read this. And I read this book, and it was on scansion, they call it. It's how Shakespeare wrote in this rhythm. And I read the book, and I became sort of an expert on it. After a while, the teacher would ask me what to do, how to chart something out. He was calling me Uncle Joel after a while. So that's proof that you can take something that's like information and just kind of turn it around. So I turned that around. Then I took a class where I was doing Taming of the Shrew, which is a Shakespeare play that is probably impossible to do now because it is just so sexist. But I was doing this scene where he's taming the shrew, Petruchio, this character. And it's a difficult scene, but it was also a physical comedy class where we were supposed to be like rolling around and sword fighting and hitting each other and doing stage combat. And this is my first go at it. And the guy who was teaching the class was this comedian actor. I had seen him at the Seattle Rep, and he was hilarious, just hilarious. So I did the scene, and after the scene was over, he gave us a critique, and he just so laid into us, just like it was the worst thing. That we just put this play to shame because we were so bad. And I don't think we were. I think we had just basically thrown in so much stage combat that it was just sort of like watching people, sword fight or something. But it was, our first go. And later on, after the scene, he took me aside and he said, Joel, I think you're going to be okay. But you are going to have to work harder than everybody else. And I was like, oh, no. And I took that to heart. Sometimes you just take these things to heart. I mean, it goes deep. It goes deeper than the brain. It goes into your heart. And you're like, wow, I'm going to have to work harder than everybody else. So as you venture out into, so then you just, you go around, I went around, did some regional theater and different things. And because another thing in when I was going to drama school, they also programmed into our head that acting for movies and TV is not really acting. It's not legitimate. They actually use that word, the legitimate stage. And so that's where the real legitimate thing happens. So in my mind, because there's no real ladder to climb, you have to kind of chart your own path. And so I decided, this is the way it was going to go. I was going to look at, John Malkovich was one of my favorite actors at the time. And I thought, okay, he was at this theater company and he did a bunch of theater, and then he did Broadway, and then he got national acclaim, and then he did movies and television after that. So I was like, well, that's the way my career is going to go, and I'm just going to go. And you know how it is when you make plans like that. It never goes the way you think it does. It never goes the way you think it's going to go. But that's okay, because you just have to learn to kind of not have these expectations, right? Like this year, when this year started, I made some, I don't know if you guys make these New Year's resolutions or like you try and project into the future. What do I want this year? What can I go for? And I said to myself, I want to have a one-man show. I want to have it. I even booked, I was going to do the Edinburgh Theatre Festival and I was going to do my one-man stand-up show. And we were booked and ready to go. And then, of course, the plans were completely thrown away. All of a sudden, right after I got that book, they were like, well, we're going to have to cancel it. But now I look back, and I do have a one-man show. It's not what I thought it was going to be. This is a one-man show. And now, also, not only is it a one-man show, but I can also get other people to collaborate on this show, and it's like a thing. So these expectations. So I had this expectation of my acting career going to go this way, and as soon as it started to deviate or I started running into roadblocks, that thing came into my head again. Well, Joel, you're not really an actor. And then I had like reasons why that was. I had attached reasons like I didn't start early enough, or, I get nervous. I would get really nervous. I was like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to overcome that because I get so nervous. But what I didn't realize is part of the nervousness was that thing in my head that said, you're not really an actor. But you know what? You just put one foot in front of the other and you keep moving, you keep moving, you keep moving. And a lot of people, what they do is they hear that thing over and over and over again, and then they're just like, forget it. And then they start to tell it to other people. Yeah, well, I started out to be an actor and I'm not really an actor. And sometimes it's okay because they let go of that thing and they move on to something else, and it's just so much better. And they don't end up having rejection fatigue. But, so that's the thought for today. What's it like to be an actor in Hollywood? The main thing is you got to look at your thoughts. You got to get your head right, just like any athlete does, just like any lawyer probably does. When a lawyer goes in to argue a case, if you're not confident, how are you going to argue for somebody else? So, moving on from there, I'm going to show you a cat video. So here it is. This is a really interesting one. There's a site that I love to go to, and it is called This is Colossal. It's a beautiful site with a lot of art on it. And Kamala sent me this. It's super cool. I think you might like it. I don't even know how they do that. Just watch it one more time because it's kind of surprising. So the girl has the cat. The cat jumps. Somehow it becomes a part of this thing. And then lands. Okay, just trying to distract you there a little bit while I look at the chat room here. Let's see what Greg said. People say something like to be all the time. To you all the time. You're really not a teacher, which would be fine if it wasn't stemming from my students. I can't imagine what it is to be a teacher. Being a teacher is like being a stand-up comedian, but the kids aren't drunk. Well, most of them aren't drunk. And you have to do it for like 6 hours a day instead of half an hour, or sometimes even 4 minutes. I don't know how you do it. And you have to teach them at the same time. You have to actually know something. Matt, what I notice is that in spite of those thoughts, you continue to act, therefore you are an actor. Well, thank you very much. That's what I was fishing for, Matt. I appreciate that. Kids should not be allowed to take those drugs. I don't know. They shouldn't. They should not be allowed to take those drugs, especially in class. Yes, only without the laughter. Hey, you should get one of these, Greg. Here, just bring that in your pocket. Stick it in your pocket. Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Great to see you, Laura. Thanks for being here. Matt, That was about the rug thing. Okay. Kids should not be allowed to take those drugs. That was about the rug thing. Oh, the rug thing. Let's look at the rug thing again. I considered it the cat thing. Let's take a look. Here we go. Here we go. Jay Gaffney. I appreciate this, Jay. More than you know. Sorry, Joel, I lost interest for the last 15 minutes. When is the actor coming on to tell us what it's like to be an actor? So true. I do use a laugh track. You should. I need one of those laugh tracks. So do I. You know, it's good. Feels good. Feels like it used to feel back in the day. Okay, I've got one more thing that I wanted to talk about. Because I'm running out of time already. I had some other stuff, but, you know, it feels good to start. So I wanted to start this a little bit. I'm going to talk about what it's like to be an actor in Hollywood. Not every day, but we're going to branch out a little bit. And I do want to get back to that. But right now, I want to say this is a Ouija board. And it seems, you know how we're overcoming fears? My fears. Maybe some of you can list your fears or some of the stuff that you get stuck in your head. Like, what's stuck in your head? I was afraid of the Ouija board. Just the idea of having it behind me is just terrifying. But one of the great things about life now is you can actually look up the history of the Ouija board. And then, Matt says they terrify you too. Well, what was told to me was, and I believe this was Joe Manning's story, but he said that his grandparents, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bob Royce, Joe Manning's grandparents were doing a Ouija board one time. Yeah, we're back to Paranormal Week. Don't you miss it? I miss Paranormal Week. I'm going to have Paranormal Week 2 at some point. But he said that his grandparents were working on a Ouija board, doing the Ouija thing, which is, you know, spirits communicate through your hands and move this little thing around and it spells stuff. They were doing it, and all of a sudden the grandmother looked up at the grandfather and the devil's face. Yes, exactly. Satan was on the grandfather's face. And then, and it was, I don't know what Satan was doing, but doing a Satan kind of thing. And the table jumped up in the air and landed again, and then jumped up, flew around the room, and then landed between them again. Matt Wright. They had us play with one in 6th grade, and I was so offended as a Christian kid. They did, didn't they? This is the first time I came across this. Was in 6th grade, Mrs. Wolgamuth's class, and we had a Ouija board, and I was like, I was the same. I was like, wait a minute, what are we doing this satanic ritual in 6th grade for? But what I found out is it's not a satanic ritual. It's actually a game that was invented last century, I believe, in America. And, you know, it's just like a Parker Brothers game. And the reason it works is because there is some kind of energy that we don't understand in our bodies that move that thing. I don't know. We have to get maybe Greg can explain that to us because I don't understand it. But what I do understand is it's just a game. Ouija. I think you might even say Ouija. Pam sent me a link, The Mysterious History of the Ouija Board. I don't think I can click on it, but, you know, write it down. 1891. Thank you for fact-checking. Yeah, so in 1891 it was invented. It was just sold as a kid's toy. And then they made all these crazy movies about it and stuff. And, you know, in the theater, we have these traditions like when you say, you can't say Macbeth in a theater, which makes it hard when you're doing the play. But if you say it, it's super bad luck. And there are some actors who were actually playing the role and dropped dead in the middle of it. A seance toy. It is. It's a seance toy. Yeah, so there are actors. There's all these stories about the play Macbeth and how the witches in there are doing actual incantations. So we have all this mythology about it. And so when I started acting and would go off to a play, my roommate, Ganell, would always say, "Good luck, Macbeth." And he says that to this day. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. It is Wednesday. We've gotten over the hump. We've got a dance break. This guy with the guitar is just incredible. I highly recommend that you go to their YouTube channel. I'm only going to show a little bit of it because I have no rights to this thing, and I should, but I just want to share it with y'all. Y'all. I'm getting good at y'all. Really good. It moves because someone cheats and moves the guide thing to the letters they want. Always spelled out curse words when playing with my mom. That's hilarious. Ganell is so funny. Good luck, Macbeth. So that's the thing, is maybe we could just dispel some of these spells. And Neil is hilarious. So if you do say, I think a lot of you probably know this, if some of you are actors, if you do say Macbeth in a theater, they make you go outside the theater, turn around 3 times, spit, swear, and then ask for permission to come back in. Oh, I think you have to quote Midsummer Night's Dream as well. And then they let you back in the theater, which is hard if you're an actor that maybe doesn't know a quote from Midsummer Night's Dream and you got to get on the stage. It can be really difficult. All right, we're going to do more exploration tomorrow. Demon sperm. Pam, come on now. All right, dance break. This guy, his name is Sam Westphalen. You're going to be blown the crap away. Mom, the devil said fuck off. I can't. All right, we're turning the corner here. Here we go. Dance break. Sam Westphalen. Another incredible guitarist there for all you guitarists out there. Inspiration. I wonder if somebody looked at this kid and said, I don't think you're a guitarist. You just don't look like one. Maybe you could be one of those guys that plays like in the background or something. And he was like, screw that. I'm gonna get a guitar, put my own .com on it. Play it like nobody plays it ever. To see the meat of it. I don't know the band Tool. That's my problem. Working on it. It's great having you all here. See you tomorrow. Lunch.